that supported
I have a friend
their
in the press.
position.
I have
Only
a friend that
I
works
feel
at 1010. So
it got to the point where one juror, I actually asked her,
Sure.
defend your position with your documents.
No,
I'm defending mine. She said, because I can. That was her defense. That's what we were up
I mean,
against.
it's to your credit then that you came to the conclusions that you did. Do you feel that at least, you know, you worked that out, at least part of this, that you worked beyond that and you could get to that place?
Well, I feel that we did the best that we could with what we had. That's it.
Do you feel you were too far?
No, I don't really think that. No, I think that we did what we had to do. I mean, this has been a long, arduous trial and was expensive for everybody, and I think we did what we had to do.
But did you notice at all when they were wearing red yesterday?
We didn't even notice.
The difficult part was having
We didn't
people
even notice.
understand
What's your name,
what
Dad?
they were reading. That was the real difficult.
And
Could you tell me your name?
Can you tell me your name? Or
They did not
juror number what?
understand what they were
Juror number what?
And once we were able to
Five.
get
How
them
many
to
jurors
understand
was
what
it that just couldn't be
said
convinced?
simply as a
Three.
lease agreement between Soundview
But it was
and
one
tenants,
spokesperson.
once they saw that, they were
For the
able to
three.
see
For the
clearly
three of
that,
them.
you know, checks
The
were
other two
going
could
to.
clearly not
We're
articulate
not going
what
to
their
Soundview and
opposition
going to
was.
see these.
They never
So
produced
once
not
we were
one
able to get through that, we were able to
document
get
that
to the verdicts that we got
disproves
to.
our claim of
And
guilt
how
at
did
all.
How did she articulate what their opposition
Well,
was?
initially
What did
it
she
wasn't
say?
unanimous.
It was.
And once we were able to
There was never
clarify things for
anything
them,
that
we
was
got we got what we
intelligent
could get
enough
out
to
of
make
this.
us
How do you
understand
feel about Pedro
what her
G
opposition
participation
was.
there?
We never
Gautier.
understood to this
We were undecided
day.
on
We
that.
still don't know
Why?
what her opposition
Why?
was.
It was
Only that
it was
she
difficult.
could do
It was
this.
difficult to establish
Did they, at least, did they feel that there was some
anything
sort of
concerning
agenda
Pedro G
against
with what
Mr.
the
Espada?
council
Well, if
Like
they
a-
did, they never
gave a verdict.
verbalized that to us. They never verbalized that to us.
Keith?
But after a while, I think that we felt that because
Let-
they were not
let-
verbalizing what was going on with them, that it had
Again,
to be
we're
something
undecided,
intrinsic.
and that's the
It
government's
wasn't
job
because the
to
documents
determine
that
if
were
they're going
and
to go
because
on
the
with it.
document
That's-
was clear. It
that's
was
what we
1
can.
and 1 equal
Again, it
2.
was long
Thank
2
you.
months, difficult 2 weeks. We did
That's
our best.
okay.
We did the best that we could do. And the bottom line is that the government wants to pursue this, let the government pursue it and give it to another jury. Let the jury come up to the
But did
Do
you
you think
feel...
another jury will convict on the charges that you didn't?
They got the right jury.
Again, that's up to the jury. Can't say. I mean, initially some of us thought this was a clear-cut case. Apparently, it wasn't a clear-cut case for some people. So again, let the next 12 decide.
I know you said you felt that there were some emotions rather than facts that were being acted on. But
Absolutely.
Did those who felt that way feel that this was some sort of vendetta against Espada? Or
I said previously to one of you was one report. I think it was, but I don't think it was a government conspiracy to get Pedro Espada.
But then what was
No,
it?
no,
Then
I
what
don't.
did you think
I
it was?
think whether it was a whistleblower, whether it was some other activities that opened them up to scrutiny, that the government would do what they would do with us. Yeah, if they see that we didn't do something correctly on our tax return, we'll get that letter in the mail, won't we?
Sorry, I got here a little late. Were you in
Great, thank you.
group? Were you in to convict, or you were?
I was part of the jury that decided in the end to pass the verdict on the counts.
Part of the defense argument, sir, was that Mr. Espada had done a lot of good up in the Bronx by founding this health clinic, and I'm wondering if you think that was part of what made inroads with the 3 jurors who didn't want to convict him.
Well, I just want to say I'm sure that he did a lot for that community. I mean, he wouldn't have been where he was if he didn't do good for the community. But I think what happens sometimes, people make mistakes. There was an intent to take some money, and unfortunately, just like again with ordinary citizens of this country, if you make that mistake, the government will come and make sure things are rectified. I think people were swayed by emotion. I think there were some other issues that I'd rather not discuss. I think maybe one of the other jurors discussed.
Can
But
you
I think,
feel
again,
that
there was a lot of emotions in there, and I think initially a decision was made on emotions.
How did the fault line shift in the 2 weeks of argument and discussion?
As I said before, once the jurors had difficulty, the ones that had difficulty understanding material, once it was made clear to them, we were able to reach a unanimous verdict. And that was initially again.
What was
once
your
again,
thinking about the son?
the son we couldn't come to an agreement on.
Why is that, sir?
Because I don't think there was enough material there for us to determine whether or not he participated in it. Another jury may determine something else. If the government chooses to follow through with it.
Why was there disagreement on 2009, but agreement on all the other years?
Let another juror
Try to explain that.
Yeah.
And it sounded like from the notes that we were getting that it was quite acrimonious at times in the jury
It was.
room.
Again, you had some jurors there. It was an emotional basis in the beginning. But once logic prevailed, we were able to get to what we got today.
And were people responding emotionally for acquittal or conviction initially?
Acquittal.
And how many of those folks were there, and how many of them shifted over due to the logic and the other folks?
Not the majority.
Not the majority. And how did you approach that? What kind of logic did you use?
A couple of us got together and really just laid it down to them from A through Z. And once they were able to do that, the other jurors that did not agree with us. And once we were able to do that, it was very clear to them, and that's why we were able to get to where we got to.
What were their emotions based on? Did they feel like this was the government was being unfair to Mr. Espada?
It's a possibility. I think maybe they thought the government was against Espada. Maybe there was a vendetta. Who knows? But it was a very emotional reasoning on their part, and we're able to once again just show the evidence and show them why it is we thought that the Pedro Espada Jr. Committed a crime.
But it was more than one juror that came in wanting an acquittal from the get-go.
Excuse me?
It was more than one juror. It wasn't just that there was one person.
It wasn't the majority.
Are you disappointed that the reason didn't prevail on the other counts? Did emotion prevail on the other counts?
Again, we got to where we got based on presenting the evidence to the other jurors.
But are you
personally disappointed? I have no. It doesn't matter to me which way it goes.
Could I get your name?
Juror number 3.
Name.
Juror number 3.
Where do you live?
In the state of New York.
For the majority.
I'm sorry, but it's just personally, I just want to keep it. I mean, just like one of the oppressed persons said, we have your name. So
what was
the
view of the majority in terms of the widespread nature of the alleged thefts that were going on that you concluded to be, in fact, thefts? What were your thoughts about?
I think the majority, once again, the majority thought. There's a majority of us that thought one way and others that didn't, and we came to the conclusions that we came to.
Do you think he was a crook, or is it more complicated than that?
I'm not going to call the man a crook. I think that's.
You found him guilty of stealing.
We found him guilty of stealing, but I don't like using.
Isn't that mean a crook?
Excuse me?
That mean a crook? Stealing is a crook.
How would you describe the conduct that went on that you convicted the senator?
I'll use the word that's in the judge's notes: theft. I'll leave it at that. If that was committed.
So for the counts where people couldn't agree, how close was that, or how far were people from that? Was that like a 50-50 split, or?
Once again, it wasn't a majority, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I would like to go home.
What do you mean by majority? Sorry, just one question.
It wasn't a majority.
Was the majority? I'm sorry, not the majority, but were people initially more people looking to acquit him or to convict him initially?
And this is the last. I'm going to go home. The last thing again is that there was a majority that wasn't a majority. That's all I want.
Number 3, is it 11-1 is a majority or
that's all I have to say.
Didn't you say 3? I thought you said 3.
I don't know if I said 3. Maybe someone else said 3.
No, you said 3.
No, the number 3.
Thank you. I said juror number 3. Then maybe
No, you said 1 could articulate and 2 others couldn't.
Take care, everyone.
We just make them understand the documents from the beginning. And but in the end, I think that we prevailed because they seem to understand that he at least was guilty of the theft and fraud.
Can you describe the belligerence as he described it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe it?
Well, from day one, the spokesperson for the other 2, because it was 3 of them, it was 9-3. The 9 was in favor of, 3 was in favor of acquittal, and of course the other ones were not. And one of the jurors, right from the start, came to the table, and within 15 minutes of our deliberation, without even looking at a document, jumped up and said, he's innocent, he's innocent, he's innocent. I don't care what you tell me, I will never change my mind. And that's what we were up against.
Which jury was that?
I don't really want to tell you what jury it was, what juror it was.
But did she ever explain her thinking or rationale for making...
No, she never did. She never did.
What did she say? I understand she said, because I can. What was? Can you repeat that, please?
Well, no, in the end, when we had finally figured out what we were going to do, and the judge had given us the opportunity to give in a partial verdict. So we had made the decision